Java provides a number of ways of looping through collections of data. In this project, loops, I've declared an array of strings. The brackets after the data type string means that this is an array of values. And the array has 12 items, one for each month of the year. I'll demonstrate how to loop through this data using 4 different types of loops: an incrementing loop, a for-each loop, a while loop, and a do-while loop. I'll start with an incrementing loop. To create the skeleton of an incrementing loop in IntelliJ IDEA, type for I and press Enter, and that will use a code template. An incrementing loop has 3 statements between parentheses. The first declares a counter variable, a starting point. The second is a condition, and the loop will continue as long as that condition is true. And the third part is an incremental statement. I++ means increment the value by 1. I'll set my condition to I less than months.length. So I'll keep looping as long as the value doesn't match the length of the array. Remember, this is a zero-based array, so when they match, it means there's not an item in that position. Then within the loop, I'll use output to the console, and I'll output the value using array syntax with months, bracket, I, close bracket. So I'm retrieving the value at that index position of the array. I'll run that code, and I'm printing out the months one line at a time. One of the advantages of an incrementing loop like this is that you can work through the array from end to beginning. I'll select and duplicate those lines of code, then I'll comment out the original version. And I'll change the new version as follows. I'll set the initial value of my counter variable to months.length minus 1. I don't want to start at 12, I want to start at 11, again taking into account the zero-based indexing. Then I'll change my condition to I greater than or equal to 0. So I'll keep looping as long as there's an item available at that index. And I'll change this statement to decrement the value with I minus minus. I'll run the code, and now I'm printing out the months in reverse order. So that's the incrementing for loop. The next kind of loop I'll demonstrate is called a for-each loop. I'll start with the keyword for. Then, within the parentheses, I'll declare a variable of the data type that matches the items in the array. And I'll name it month in this case. Then I'll put in a colon, and then the array name, months. Within the braces, I can now address that variable, and the iteration is now being handled for me. I don't need to keep track of a counter variable. Once again, I'll print out the month, this time using the variable that's being set each time through the array. I'll run the code, and there it goes. So a for-each loop is syntactically a little bit more simple, but it's not quite as flexible as an incrementing loop, as I showed you. Next is a while loop. A while loop examines a condition and then keeps on looping as long as the condition is true. I'll start here by declaring a variable that I'll name counter, and I'll give it a value of 0. Then, on the next line, I'll type while, and then within the parentheses, I'll set a condition of counter less than months.length. I'll create a set of braces as a code block, and then I'll output a value using months, and then counter as the index. Now, with a while loop, the counter won't be incremented for me. I have to do it myself. And I'll do that with counter++. So each time through the loop, I print the month, and then I increment the counter, and the next time around, that condition will be evaluated again. I'll run the code, and there's the result. And finally, there's the do-while loop. This kind of loop is used less commonly than the others, but it is available. I'll copy and paste my while loop. I'll comment the original version out, and then I'll change the code as follows. I'll take my while condition, and I'll cut and paste it to the end of the code block. And then at the beginning of the code block, I'll add the keyword do. Notice the squiggly line at the end of the while statement, and that's because I need to finish this kind of statement with a semicolon. So now I'm saying, do this, then increment the value, then evaluate the condition. Functionally, it works just as well as a standard while loop. It just takes a little bit more code, and it moves the condition evaluation to the end of the statement instead of placing it at the beginning.